Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. So, have you ever really noticed how even the most powerful AI models, like GPT and Claude, seem to generate their answers one word at a time? Well, today we're breaking down a potential game changer in AI that could completely redefine how these models work.
So let's dive right into that because it seems like a simple question, right? But it actually points to a fundamental bottleneck, a major roadblock that's been holding back pretty much all of today's large language models. The answer reveals this massive inefficiency right at the heart of modern AI.
And this brings us to the core of the problem, what we can call the LLM bottleneck. It's essentially a mechanical loop, a repetitive process that all the major models have been stuck in for years. It's powerful, for sure, but it turns out it's also incredibly expensive.
To understand this, you have to know that AIs don't really see words and sentences the way we do. They see everything as a sequence of these things called tokens. A token can be a whole word, like apple, or just part of a word. And the entire job of these giant models is, when you boil it down, shockingly simple, look at all the tokens so far and just predict the very next one. That's it. It adds that new token to the sequence and then does it all over again.
And this is where the crazy inefficiency comes in. For every single one of those tokens it generates, the model is burning through billions of computations. I mean, think about that. It's kind of like using a supercomputer to guess the next letter in a sentence, one single letter at a time. This is the bottleneck we're talking about.
But what if we could break out of this one token at a time loop? Well, a new research paper introduces a paradigm shift that aims to do just that. It's called Continuous Autoregressive Language Models, or CALM for short, and it's a completely new vector-based vision.
And this table really shows you the core difference in a nutshell. Traditional models predict one tiny puzzle piece at a time. That's a single, discrete token. But CALM, instead, predicts a single, continuous vector. And here's the kicker. That one vector can represent an entire chunk of 4 or more tokens all at once. This dramatically increases what the researchers call semantic bandwidth, which is really just a way of saying how much meaning the AI can generate in a single step.
And the researchers say it themselves right in the paper. The key to overcoming this problem isn't just about making models bigger. No, it's about creating a whole new way to scale them by making each individual generative step carry much, much more meaning.
Okay, so that all sounds pretty cool in theory, but how does it actually work under the hood? Well, it's a really elegant 3-step process. Compress, predict, and decompress. And it completely changes the workflow for generating language.
So here's how it goes. First, in the compress step, a clever little component called an autoencoder takes a chunk of text, say 4 tokens, and squishes it down into one single dense vector. Second, predict. The transformer part of the model, which we're all familiar with, doesn't predict the next token anymore. It predicts the next vector in the sequence. And finally, decompress. The decoder takes that predicted vector and unpacks it, reconstructing the original 4 tokens.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. When you compress something, don't you lose some of the information? And that's a fair question, but the amazing thing here is that the compression is incredibly accurate. The autoencoder is able to reconstruct the original tokens with over 99.9% fidelity. So yeah, that means virtually no information gets lost in the process. It's almost perfect.
All right, so this new approach isn't just some cool academic theory. It delivers some really dramatic and measurable improvements in efficiency. And it makes perfect sense, right? If you reduce the number of steps you need to take, you're going to directly reduce the amount of computation you need.
And just how much of a reduction are we talking about? Well, in their experiments, a CALM model managed to achieve the exact same performance as a standard large transformer model, but it used approximately 40% fewer computational resources. That is a huge, huge saving.
Looking at the data from their tests really confirms it. You compare the large-sized CALM model to its traditional transformer counterpart, you see about a 40% drop in flops, those computational costs. Then, you look at a medium-sized CALM model compared to a standard small model with similar performance, and it's roughly twice as efficient. The pattern is just crystal clear. You're getting the same or even better results for significantly less computational power.
So let's zoom out. What does this all mean for the future of AI? This is where things get really, really exciting, because this suggests a brand new path forward for making AI more powerful.
You know, for years, there have basically been 2 main ways to improve AI. 1, make the models bigger with more parameters, or 2, feed them more and more data.
Calm introduces a third lever we can pull. We can now try to scale AI by increasing the semantic bandwidth of each step. In other words, we can scale the amount of information that gets processed in a single prediction.
And this changes the game in a few really key ways. First, it doesn't throw out the powerful transformer engine we already have, it just extends it. It completely redefines the target it's aiming for, from single words to what are essentially entire ideas packed into vectors. A huge side benefit is that it also eliminates one of the most computationally expensive steps in the old process. In a way, this is doing for language what diffusion models, like Stable Diffusion or Midjourney, did for images. It's moving the whole creative process into a much more flexible, continuous space.
As one analysis of the paper put it so well, the breakthrough here isn't just about making models faster. It's about fundamentally changing what a unit of generation even means. It's a total shift in perspective.
And all this leaves us with a really provocative final thought. For years, the race in AI has been all about scale. More data, more parameters, more raw power. But maybe the next great leap forward won't come from just brute force. Perhaps the path forward for AI is less about getting bigger and a whole lot more about getting smarter and more elegant in its efficiency.